For Julian Assange, a story from the 1001 Nights, the Greek King and Dr. Douban. The original is much longer and more elaborate, but this is my version in a book called Stranger Magic. The fisherman has managed with his cunning ruse to trick the furious Jinni Sakir back into the copper bottle, and is walking back to the water's edge to throw him back into the sea, when from within the Jinni pleads for his life. The fisherman sternly refuses, while the Jinni promises him every blessing. "You are lying," says the fisherman. "Your promises are empty. You and I are like the vizier of King Yunan and Douban, the doctor." "Tell me how we're like them," says the Jinni. In Byzantium, a king who has everything in the world, great riches, loyal followers, and vast armies at his command, falls ill with a disease, a kind of psoriasis, for which none of his physicians or doctors can find a cure. A travelling sage called Douban happens to be passing through the king's territory. When he hears of the king's sickness, he arrays himself in his finest clothes and calls in all submissiveness on the court. When the king receives him, Douban offers to heal him, and the doctor begins his work, renting a house, studying his books. After consulting further, he prepares a mixture, fashions a ball, and into the shaft of a mallet which he has hollowed out, introduces the mixture. The next day he presents the ball and mallet to the king and tells him to go out to the polo field and ride as hard as he can, holding the mallet tight and swinging it vigorously until he's worked up a lather all over his body. The salve in the stick will transpire through his whole frame. Then he's to return to the palace, and after bathing he will be cured. King Yunan does as the doctor tells him. The following morning, when Douban presents himself at the palace, the king receives him royally, because as soon as he left the baths, he found all traces of his disease had vanished from his body. His skin had become as smooth as pure silver. In his joy and gratitude, King Yunan makes a fuss of Douban, seating him by his side on his ceremonial divan, arraying him in splendid silks, feasting with him, showering him with money and other presents, and giving him his own thoroughbred to ride home. One of the king's viziers looks darkly on these developments. He approaches the king and warns him that he is in danger from someone close. "Speak," says the king. When the vizier names Douban, the king rejects the insinuation angrily and reminds his adviser of the example of King Sindibad, who destroyed his favourite hawk when the bird kept overturning his cup, preventing him from drinking from a stream. But it turned out that a snake was in the tree above, pouring its venom into the water, and the bird had saved Sindibad's life. "You are asking me to do the same," said the king, "and kill the man who has saved me." "If he cured you," insists the vizier, "he can kill you as easily." The king is afraid, and the vizier advises him to execute Douban forthwith, before he can spring anything on him. Summoned to the king's presence, in complete ignorance of the fate which lies in store, Douban salutes him with many fervent praise poems. But the king tells him he is going to kill him, as abruptly as that. "You are a spy, I've been advised, come to assassinate me," and he orders the executioner to cut off the physician's head. Douban pleads for justice. He compares himself to the crocodile in the fable, but he doesn't proceed to tell that story. There is not enough time left. "I shall only rest easy when you are dead," continues King Yunan. The doctor warns him, "If you make me die, God will make you die." But the king remains implacable. The doctor weeps. The hangman binds his eyes and lays his head on the block. One of the courtiers rises and asks that he be spared. The doctor then asks for one last grace, to go back to his house, order his affairs, arrange his burial, and give away his books, especially his medical books. There is in his library one book, he adds, which he particularly wants to present to the king. It is full of a myriad secrets, one of which is especially precious. He gives the king chapter and verse how to discover him. He gives the king chapter and verse how to discover it, and tells him that after his head has been cut off, the king should place it in a basin with a layer of coal at the bottom to staunch the blood, and it will answer any question the king puts to it. Your severed head will speak to me, the king marvels. The following day, the court reassembles for the execution in their full splendour. The Dr. Douban returns from his house with a book and a box of powder which he sprinkles on a dish, telling the king again to place his head on the dish once it has been cut off, as the powder will staunch the flow of blood. The doctor is executed. Yunnan wants to open the book, but he finds that its pages are stuck together. He licks his finger and turns the first page, then a second, then a third. They can only be separated with great difficulty, and Yunnan can see nothing written on them, so he keeps turning them, as the head on the dish urges him to keep doing in order to find the place he wants. The king continues, but at the end of a very short time, an evil has entered his entire body. The pages are poisoned. The king falls into convulsions and cries out, I am poisoned, I am poisoned. Then the head of the physician Douban recites another poem about the workings of destiny on the just and the unjust. Hardly has he finished, and the king falls down dead. You see, says the fisherman to Sakir the Jinni, that if the king Yunnan had allowed the doctor to live, God would have preserved him. But he refused, wanted to kill him, and God made him die.